Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for our first session of the Cure Kentucky virtual seminar series. This series was created based on member feedback and to help the members of the consortium to become more familiar with research cores, programs, and other institutional resources available across the university, with the goal to make it easier for our members to identify resources that can support their work and learn about other opportunities that they may not have thought of or encountered or heard about. Um, so the plan is to meet virtually every month throughout the academic year, and each session is going to feature a different UK resource. We will be recording these presentations, and they will be available through the Cure Kentucky website and YouTube channel, so that all the consortium members can return them as needed. So thank you, Nat, for setting up that YouTube channel as well. So today we're going to kick off the series with our colleagues from the Proposal Development Office. The PDO provides a range of support for investigators that are pursuing extramural funding and honorifics, including identifying funding opportunities, helping them and helping us with developing competitive proposals, making sure that we're aligned with the sponsor requirements, building collaborative teams, pointing us to the right place, and navigating the whole proposal development process and connecting with our other sponsored projects teams, CGS and OSPAT as needed. So I'd like for everyone to think of it as a continuum with PDO, CGS, and OSPAT all working together in a seamless fashion. And today it really is my pleasure to introduce both Lou Hurst, who's a Proposal Development Officer, Senior Development Officer, sorry, Lou, missed that part of your title, and Will, who is a Proposal Development Officer, who's been actually really instrumental in terms of helping us with uncovering, surfacing honorific opportunities for our faculty and pursuing them more aggressively than in the last 6 months that I have in the entire 4 years before that I've been at UK. So thank you, Will and Lou. I have had nothing but amazing experiences working with you on the various projects that we worked with. So thank you both so much for making time to be here with us and for helping us kick off the series. And I will turn it over to both of you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Masadi, for that incredibly generous introduction, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm going to get our slides going now. If someone could just confirm that we can see the PowerPoint. Wonderful. So as Dr. Masadi mentioned, we're here with you today to share a little bit about the Proposal Development Office, give a brief overview. We will also share kind of some tailored resources for the Cure KY researchers, for all of you. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and just give a brief agenda. One is just an introduction that Lou will very generously provide. Then we're getting into the funding search capacity of PDO. From there into kind of our bread and butter service traditionally, which is the proposal development services from proposal review and different aspects of that. We'll briefly talk about honorifics pursuits as well, other PDO services, and then at the end, we're going to have an open space for discussion and questions. So please feel free to be thinking of any sort of question you have for us, maybe something that we did not cover, or if something that we mentioned sparks a curiosity, please, by all means, feel free to raise it. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Lou for the first few slides of content.
Yes, thank you, Will. And I do want to reiterate, we have a brief amount of content, but we would love to have a dynamic conversation afterwards. So we'll be here for that. But so who are we? Hopefully you've heard of us at least a little, but it's easy to maybe confuse us with other offices or not be clear on what our domain is. So we in the Proposal Development Office, we're one of the many offices and units that's part of UK research, and our domain is strictly pre-award. We handle things up to the moment of submission and then hopefully help with the next submission, but that's where we operate. We also, unlike some other offices, are strictly voluntary and needs-based, so we learn from you what your gaps are, what your needs are when it comes to getting a proposal out the door, and we are there just to help to that extent. as well as we possibly can. We're also by design non-specialized by subject area. We do happen to have some expertise in our background with different funders or different topics of research, but we all make sure that we're cross-trained so that we understand kind of the research enterprise broadly, and our advice is informed by that kind of global perspective. So we're non-specialists, we're generalists in all that we do, and we're also available to support all UK investigators. We very often work with faculty, but we also work with students, postdocs, anyone at UK who's interested in external funding. So we like to say that we provide wraparound pre-award services. So we fill in the gaps wherever you identify them, wherever they are in terms of finding appropriate funding for your research, preparing the actual proposal up to submission, and training, like a little what we're doing now, but we can also deliver specific trainings, as I'll talk about soon. Next slide, please. So to kind of help you contextualize where we are in the proposal development route, if you think about the process of developing a proposal, starting with developing your original idea, all the way through sitting down to identify an opportunity and start writing through submission, to let you know where we sit as opposed to the other offices like Collaborative Grant Services and OSPA. We start very early. We sometimes call ourselves pre-award. So when you are ideating, when you have not yet identified who might potentially be a funder or what potentially you might do, that's where you can engage us. It's never too early to start engaging with us. We start with that through your pre-proposal activities as you start identifying that proposal and starting to write and draft. So once you've committed down the road of a certain proposal, that is when, as you hopefully know if you've submitted before, that's when you engage CGS by submitting a proposal initiation form. So that's when they get involved, but often we will have been involved before that. So we can overlap a little bit with CGS up through proposal submission. Once it's out the door, that's kind of in the hands of CGS and OSPA, especially for compliance reasons. But that's where we live. And then also if there's a resubmission, if you were not successful or if you want to try a different funder next time, we also can come right back in at the resubmission step. So that's where we fit. And next slide, please. This is our page where a lot of the resources that we'll be talking about today, this is where you can engage with those. We'll say it again, I'm sure, but just to emphasize, there's no one necessary way that you need to talk to us. We are very flexible. You can email Will and me. Now you know at least us. You can send direct emails to us or anyone in PDO or our main PDO inbox, or there's an intake form on this site. But any and all of those ways are perfectly correct and appropriate for you to reach us, because we want to be as approachable as we possibly can. Thank you. Next slide. Is this you, Will? Or I can talk about finding funding.
I can jump in here. So in terms of finding funding, and again, building off of what Lou said earlier, I kind of think of PDO as a resource to help you find funding and then help you pursue winning that funding. So on the front end of that, of looking for funding opportunities, there are a few different ways that we can engage with you. The first of them is kind of a more passive approach from our end, where we have these mailing list resources that we've built up over time that you can sign up to on our website. These are called PDO funding alerts, where we are constantly monitoring all sorts of different sponsors, whether it be federal, state level, private funding, et cetera, as we'll dive into in a moment. And here, whenever we see a funding opportunity, we send it out to the relevant mailing lists. And these are basically subject lists. They're also sorted by responsibility or type of role at times. For example, we have funding for students, funding for postdocs. These are all different mailing lists that you can opt into. And then again, we send them directly to the researchers that would be most interested in those opportunities. We also will mention Pivot here in just a second, which is a subscription database that UK pays for, that you can use either yourself or you can request a funding search from us, wherein we can actually use Pivot, Google, any sort of tool available at our disposal to basically evaluate the entire funding landscape and see what opportunities are out for you specifically at that moment. So I would encourage you to think of this in two directions. One is the funding alerts, which are covering as much of the UK research enterprise as we can, and then more tailored funding search support that could be for you as an individual or for your lab. Speaking of those funding alerts, this is kind of what that system looks like. If you go into our website, navigate to funding, you can then click on the funding alert. It's either funding or services, and then you can navigate to this platform where you can essentially just click any topic that you would like to be subscribed to. And from there, again, there are also some sort of like role designations, whether it be funding for students, or I think there might be some others as well. This is Pivot, which we mentioned a couple of slides ago as well, which is that subscription that the University of Kentucky pays for this very robust research funding database. Here I searched infectious diseases just to see what would come up with that. I then clicked down in this funding types category research. So the 75 results that are currently active in that category then populate into this sheet. And then Lou, in a moment, will also be talking about the specific Cure KY pivot resource that she has developed for you all as well.
Yeah, we wanted to highlight this specific resource that we have set up for Cure KY already. So it feeds out of that the pivot database that Will just showed you. What we've done is on the back end, as administrators, we also did what you might call like a curated search or a standing search of opportunities that are appropriate for anything related to infectious disease. And go ahead to that. This is how you get there on your webpage. But if you click on that, you'll see what are two, this is a screenshot from it, but it's two live feeds that pull out of the pivot database, and we set it up so that there's some that's more appropriate for established faculty for research projects, and then on the side there's also funding opportunities that would be more appropriate for graduate students or trainees, and so that's not perfect or absolutely comprehensive searches, but that's just to roughly divide it up into those categories to make it most helpful for you. So if you are able to go there, you can scroll through on the webpage itself. And again, this is something that's live, so it's constantly changing as new opportunities come in that are populated on the pivot database. They should show up here. And you are also able to click, you can see where it says view more details. You may have to log in at that point, but then that takes you directly to Pivot where you can investigate those specific opportunities for yourself and see what the eligibility requirements are and everything. So just to make sure that you know that that's available here, and to say again that we in PDO kind of oversee the Pivot database and make sure that investigators like you are using it maximally so we can guide you in pursuing any of those or just knowing how to use Pivot better.
Yes, absolutely. And then these are some of the funders that you're most likely to see on Pivot. So I'm not going to spend too much time on public funders for Cure KY researchers, as I'm sure all of you are aware that the NIH is still the biggest show in town. You're all familiar with CDC, NSF, et cetera. I would encourage you to also look at state level funding from time to time. And again, you can use Pivot to identify that. You can use our funding alert system to try to stay abreast of these opportunities. And then you can also request tailored funding searches for your particular project, or it could even be a series of ideas or projects. What I do want to spend a little bit more time on is the private funders for all of you, especially because there are a couple of relevant opportunities actually active at this moment. So private funders, we're thinking of professional societies and their foundations. We're thinking of independent foundations like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or just now the Gates Foundation. We're also thinking industry, all sorts of different funders that fit into that umbrella. And in preparing these slides, I was actually just thinking, like what's currently active with some of these. And as far as the Gates Foundation goes, they actually launched yesterday a grand challenge on reducing cost of pathogen sequencing. So that could be relevant for some folks in Cure KY. And I'll put out the funding alert for that today. And then we also have HHMI in November. They have the Freeman Hrabowski Scholars Program going live, and that is due in mid-December. That's for faculty in the first 7 years of their career, and first 7 years as a lab lead, I should clarify. And that is a very generous funding opportunity that now is actually if I'm interpreting their presentation that they did on this opportunity correctly, blinded by institution. So this traditionally, a lot of these very prestigious opportunities tend to be biased very heavily towards private institutions, towards like the top 3 to 5 public institutions in the country, towards the University of California system. HHMI seems to be trying to actively move away from that. So that is something modern, something that I would encourage a lot of UK faculty to apply for. Yes, turn it back to Luke.
Thank you. Another thing I just wanted to throw into is with these private funders, Pivot is specifically, or is quite good at collecting opportunities from professional organizations, some that are small, some that are international. A lot of those might be especially appropriate for infectious disease researchers. So that is a good tool for finding those. Yeah, so we want to make sure you realize that PDO supports the entire proposal development process, very, very broadly conceived. We are here to help consult with your project idea to see if it's aligned with any specific funder, if it might be attractive to a particular funder for a particular reason. We keep up with our knowledge of what funders are looking for and how they're thinking to hopefully help inform what we tell you. So we can also find potential funders for you if you have that specific idea ready. If you have found an opportunity, or if we find one for you, we can help you sit through and evaluate whether it is realistic for you to develop it for a certain timeline, or to make sure that you're eligible, or that the project that you're proposing really fits the spirit of the opportunity. We can also help you just clarify the process of getting a proposal out. It can be quite complicated and sometimes is daunting for people. So UK has its own internal processes, and there's things that happen once it leaves, and we stay familiar with the offices internally and with processes that happen externally, so we can kind of help you navigate that and make referrals and connections as necessary. But then what we really love to do is to review proposal drafts as you start the actual writing process. So we are the one office that is able to think through your ideas and the actual substance of what you're wanting to propose, and how you can best and most effectively get that across to funders in a way that they'll find attractive and competitive. Thanks.
Yes, so I'm glad that Lou introduced that in that way. It's something that we love to do. This really is kind of the bread and butter of PDO, and where a lot of our joy in this work comes from, because proposal reviews are an opportunity to really dive into what you've written, whether that's in the idea stage or getting closer to a polished draft. And when we do these reviews, which again are comprehensive, they're focused on content, they're focused on alignment with the funder, we are reviewing for the clarity of your argument. So a lot of the times, for example, we'll see really rich scientific writing and a lot of description, but perhaps maybe the core questions or argument might be buried a couple of pages into the proposal, and we encourage folks to bring that up as soon as possible. Relatedly, we read for concision. So sometimes there might be a point of the proposal that is really, really exciting and might be fantastic to expand upon in an article, but might be a little more tangential as far as the priorities of that particular funder are concerned. So we might try to make that be a little bit more concise. Again, adherence to sponsor guidelines, whether that be formatting or even just like absolute requirements that the sponsor has that perhaps you might have missed, which is quite easy to do with a lot of these guideline documents that can be dozens or even 100+ pages. Satisfying any of the evaluation criteria. So when there are opportunities that have explicit evaluation criteria already spelled out in advance, we make sure to do our proposal reviews in alignment with that. And we'll often have that printed out right next to us as we are progressing through your proposal. And then any other feedback or incorporation of other feedback that you might have received as well, whether that be on a previous submission of this proposal, if it's a resubmission, feedback from your colleagues, feedback from a program officer that you might have pitched the idea to, etc. And again, this can be any of your project narrative. It can be a piece of it. It can be the entire thing. I think some faculty might have the impression that we only do this once per proposal, but that is not the case. We can do as many drafts as you desire on some of the more intensive and kind of I would say large opportunities that I've helped you guys with, gone like 4 or 5, sometimes even 6 drafts. That might not be typical, but it is very common to have two or three. And we can do as many as you want. And the timelines are pretty flexible on this as well. The sooner you get it to us, the better. And we do want to make sure that you're respecting CGS and OSPA timelines as well, for the progression through the UK research process of submitting a grant. But we typically respond in anywhere from 2 to 5 business days when you get it to us. And again, that can be 2 to 5 business days getting it back to you on a first draft, 3 months pre-deadline, another draft a couple months before the deadline, maybe another draft or two in the last month leading up to it. So this is where we are really flexible. We're really excited to work with you on the content of your proposals, and we get a lot of joy from that work.
Absolutely, thank you. So what Will has said kind of refers to the core of your proposal, like the research strategy or the technical narrative or the main part. But we also want you to know that there's sometimes these supplemental narratives or extra narratives or some that tend to be formulaic that you also need to prepare as part of your proposal package, but PDO also often assists with those. Especially facilities descriptions and maybe especially for proposals that are institutional or large scale. Obviously, if you're describing aspects of UK, there are other researchers that will have had to do the same thing. So we can especially support those descriptions. We do have a resource that's on our linked on our website, the facilities description library, and that's where we try to maintain text that is up to date and accurately describes major resources across campus, centered like UK as a whole and the research enterprise as a whole, but also specific cores, centers, colleges, departments, buildings, those sorts of things. If you want to use that text as a starter, you always have to make sure that you adapt it and make sure that it's written in a way that's tailored for your proposal and is relevant. And we can also help you do that. But we kind of specialize in those facilities descriptions, also components like support letters. We can sometimes help develop drafts of those when those are needed for a proposal. For standardized documents like bio sketches that are necessary, we can help with the formatting now. Those are often done through Science CV, and so we can advise on using Science CV, but we also can help think through like what's the best way to present your qualifications, your awards, and to write up your personal statement in a way that best suits the proposal that you're going for. And then other types of documents like data management and safety plans that have their own requirements and sometimes templates, so we can help in those ways as well with those subsidiary documents. Next slide, please. Yeah, so if you have a proposal that's complex in the sense that it requires multiple units, it may have multiple sections of the proposal that that need to be developed separately, and often there's a large team of people that needs to come together to produce those proposals. We have one special support person in PDO, but sometimes multiple others of us on the staff can assist with these as well. So what we do in those cases is we work in concert with collaborative grant services to make sure that all of these moving parts come together well to produce something that's successful and competitive. So we can prepare task lists and timelines to get all of your team on the same page, or to track your progress as you go, help you manage your documents as they go through multiple drafts, multiple people are working on them. Sometimes data tables with information that's sometimes institutional information is needed, and we can help get the information for that. It's also sometimes can be tricky with these team proposals to when you have many different narratives that many different people are writing. You need someone to like review across those narratives and make sure it's consistent and that it coheres together to show already that you're a successful team developing that proposal. So we can do that, and we can help coordinate your workflows to make sure that you're successful, and that kind of work can kind of carry through into the post-award stage as well, as the same people, if you're successful with this proposal, need to coordinate equally well to get the work done, can help kind of do that transition. So that's another thing that we specialize in. Next slide.
And then another thing that we help out with is coordinating limited submission opportunities at the University of Kentucky. So limited submission just simply means that these are opportunities that the institution can only submit perhaps one applicant or two or three or a particular amount per department or college. And in that case, we have our limited submission portal via UK Research, and then PDO staff, namely Kathy and Liz, oversee that process as well. When we have our funding alerts that go out for these, they'll often be labeled they will be labeled LS. And in the description, they'll say limited submission. They'll talk about the institutional limit for how many people can submit. And then there's a coordinated internal competition for these opportunities. And this also allows interested researchers to identify as potential collaborators. So if you are not selected, but you would be willing to collaborate, that is an option as well. I'm going to keep that relatively brief, but do keep an eye out if you see a funding alert. If it says LS, that means limited submission, and there might be more components required on the internal process of that.
Grants training. So any skills or knowledge that you would like to just get some training on. Broadly speaking, we in PDO can at any time deliver a custom workshop for you for any kind of small group that may be grouped together by your research area, like you all here are interested in infectious disease, but we can also do these by career stage. We've done many for like postdocs, for graduate students, for early career faculty, or we can do a specific training on some new opportunity that has come out, or a standing opportunity that is very attractive, like the NSF Career or some Young Investigator Awards. Anything that you are interested in getting a group together to learn how you can develop competitive proposals for that, we can do that. We can be very flexible in the timing. Whenever it works for your group, we can come sit in on standing meetings that your group may have. And we can do it for individual lab, for instance. Everyone in the lab can have the training at the same time. If it in person works better, if virtual works better, we can be flexible in all of those ways. So just so you're aware that we can do that. Also, we do have a standing workshop series, which we call Friday High Five with PDO. That one's always virtual. It's every Friday at 11 a.m. And we have different topics. Hopefully, if you're on our mailing list, you will have received some information about the upcoming topics that we have planned. We also put that in the BPR newsletter and on our website. But just so you know, that's something else that we do.
Wonderful. And briefly, before I talk about honorifics, which I'm very excited to kind of talk through our process with this with all of you, I just want to say we only have like a couple pieces of actual content left, and then we have some concluding slides, and then we'll get into that open discussion and questions. So this would be a good time to kind of like be resetting mentally and preparing any questions that you might have. I just don't want that to spring up on you out of nowhere, and you'd be like, well, the one does this thing, but I didn't really formulate it. So I'm giving you kind of that heads up advance notice that we're getting towards the open discussion. With that said, I do want to thank Dr. Massaudi for prefacing our honorifics operation at PDO so kindly in her introduction. And I want you all to think of this as kind of a comprehensive service when it comes to thinking about honorifics and pursuing them. So much as we help faculty find funding and then pursue winning it, the same applies to honorifics. And that manifests in four main ways. The first is personalized award searches, which this can be either individually solicited. So if any professor on this call, any faculty member, if there's graduate students as well, I'm happy to do award searches for them. Any of you can email me or PDO directly and request an honorific search. And then I will use all the tools we've discussed, Pivot, Google searches. I also concentrate really heavily on your professional society memberships or any professional society awards that don't require membership. And we can find tailored awards opportunities for an individual person. The other direction for this is I've often had department chairs, once they learn of our honorific services, request that I do a group honorific search. So this could look like all early career faculty in a department, for example. And then they give me all of their society memberships, a couple details about their research, maybe CVs if they have them on hand, and then I can do a kind of batch search in that way, and that can help develop sort of like a short to medium term awards calendar for when chairs know that they're going to be nominating a certain individual, or when they might be tapping another senior faculty member in the department to nominate an individual. So that's the first area, is finding awards. And again, that can be initiated through the PDO contact on our website or just emailing me directly. The second and probably most significant effort that we provide is nomination assistance. I say that we provide starter nomination and recommendation letters, but often they're quite close to finished. So in this service, we essentially knowing who the nominator is, knowing who the nominee is, we do extensive research on the nominee's academic career, on the nominator's academic career, and on the opportunity that we're nominating for. And we draft a letter that can be significantly enhanced, of course, by the actual submitter of that letter, but that saves them a significant amount of time. So some folks just want a template, and I can easily just provide like an addressed letter that has like literally the address of the society or whatever the entity is that we're nominating to, some template language, and then a signature. But a lot of folks who are very busy, whether they be in administrative roles or they're working on like 5 research projects at once, that is something they've cited as one of the main obstacles to helping folks pursue honorifics or even doing it themselves. So we like to provide those starter letters to significantly reduce the time burden. I would say that in some instances we manage half or even well over half of the time commitment of pursuing a particular honorific. As well, with part of that, a lot of honorifics and awards do require an actual proposal. In that case, of course, we can provide the same sort of proposal review that we do with grants and different funding opportunities. And then the final service is more strategic and long-term honorifics planning for different units at UK, whether that be a department, a college, a center. Cure KY could certainly be another entity in that regard. And there I've prepared a lot of awards lists slash calendars that essentially have as many as possible of the relevant honorifics opportunities for that unit, sorted by typical due date. And then I can also provide consultations to particular units. And at the bottom here, just listed some of the many relevant professional societies for you all.
Thanks, Will. Just to give you a sprinkling of some additional services that we do, we conduct collaborator searches. If you want to know someone else in UK that might be a good fit for a team, we can help get our hands on templates and sample proposals. When you find those helpful, we can in various ways help liaise with the sponsor agencies. Sometimes people have liked us to come be present on a meeting with a program officer or to help craft an email to reach out to a program officer, those sorts of things. And we introduce you internally to other units across UK as needed for what you're looking for, like CGS or OSPA or philanthropy or UK Innovate, or those other offices. We can help make a link or a warm handoff when that's appropriate.
Yes, absolutely. So kind of wrapping up here and then getting into the open conversation and the questions. We've throughout the presentation gestured to the different ways to reach us, but one is just the service request form on our website. 2 is when you're submitting your PIF as part of the UK research workflow of submitting a grant. You can check that you would like to receive PDO services, and then that'll go to us automatically, and we will reach out to you proactively. You can just email the PDO at uky.edu email. You could also contact any of us individually. We're all listed on the website. Now you at least know Lou and I as well. You can come visit us in our new home in Kincaid Hall, which is pictured here, the beautiful historic quad. And you can also call the main office as listed there. And I know this is recorded, but we can also share these slides as a PDF too. So you can click through this and have all this information. So with that, just kind of thinking of what we've shared with you all today, if you only take away 3 things from this, we would like it to be these 3 things, which is 1, that PDO helps you find funding and honorifics opportunities. 2, that we help you develop the proposals to win those opportunities. And 3, that we have myriad other services to assist with complex proposals, limited submissions, regular trainings, etc. And then just remember that all of our services are completely free and they're also available to graduate students. So people tend to think that it's just faculty, but we want to make sure we're promoting these opportunities to graduate students as well. So with that, I'll actually just leave. I can leave this slide up if you all want to have this little artsy Q&A emblem to help inspire your thoughts, but this is now an open conversation for anyone to jump in. And thank you all for your time.
Well, thank you, Will and Lou. And I guess the session is open for questions. Are there specific questions that the audience has? Maybe we can take down the slides so that we can um, see everyone's face. So,
Can I ask the first question?
of course, Crystal.
Awesome. So I was interested. I looked on your pivot table online and I didn't see the Gates funding announcement. Can you tell us a little bit more about that one?
Yes,
Isn't that just
absolutely.
that's why.
And yeah, full disclosure, that came out yesterday. I'm about to put that in the chat now. So I've read it one time. Having only read it one time, I'm not going to give any sort of like definitive statements. But my sense from this is that this is about simplifying pathogen sequencing, but particularly lowering the cost. So I've put the link into the chat. I will send out a funding alert today. So that'll be a good test for everyone who is signed up to our funding alert system, whether or not you're receiving that. And if not, make sure to review what you've signed up for. But yeah, the overwhelming emphasis when I read this grand challenge was cost reduction. And whether that's done through workflow simplification, reduced turnaround time, et cetera, depends on the scope of your research. But yeah, they're really looking to get costs down with pathogen sequencing.
No, thank you. And I just have one more question. I know you went through this, but you went through it so quickly. How do I sign up for like a specific listserv to get notifications? I feel like I tried to do this before and I wasn't successful.
Yeah, you can let's see. From our main page, are you able to get the link? I can put the link in the chat, but we actually set up a new system for this. I don't know how long ago it was that you maybe originally signed up, but we have
Long time.
very snazzy new system. Yeah, I think you'll find it easier, and it's also easier to like unsubscribe yourself from a list if you start seeing that it's not you're not getting the optimal mix of proposals. But let me um
And while Lou is putting that into the chat, I wanted to also just kind of remind everyone on this call that Nat provided a whole slew of keywords to PDO, and that we are generally assembling all the various opportunities that broadly speak to infection, immunity, inflammation. And Nat, if you want to come off mute and just kind of briefly describe the list of keywords that you gave. So going on the Cure website will already provide you with 80% of what you're looking for, unless it's a niche topic that you're trying to go over. So just encouraging everyone to check the Cure website, that page, so that you could save yourself also another listserv email that you might be deleting because you're overwhelmed. So
yes, thanks. Another option too for saving yourself a barrage of emails is to always remember that you can set up a consultation with us and we'll do an individualized funding search for you. So just tell us directly what the project is or a general area, and we will sit down and come up with our own like specific list based on what we can find in Pivot, but what we might be hearing from other channels too. Like Pivot's not great at like state opportunities, for instance, but we have other channels for finding out about that. It's not necessarily great at sifting through the different institutes at NIH in an efficient way. So we will always do the individualized searches, so you don't need to spend too much of your day on that part of it. You can focus on the science and let us support you in that way. Did that link that I put in work? You have to use your link glue to log in, but once you're in there,
I do get an error at the bottom of the page, but I think
uh-oh,
the
that's not
website
good.
is generally working.
Okay, that's never good. Well, can I share my screen real fast? I just pulled it up on mine, and
And Lou, I did put in the general landing page for PDO funding opportunities, and then from there, maybe if they navigate to join the mailing list from that link, it may also work.
okay. Okay, so when you have logged in, it should look something like this. and you click on mailing lists, and there's all of these lists. May take a minute, but be conservative, because when we put opportunities and we send them to the listservs, we try to give as broad coverage as we can. But these are the lists that are available. There's one on infectious disease, immunology, autoimmune. So hopefully many of you in the group are signed up for some of those that might work for you. There's also some that are more functional, like for biomedical education and training, if you just want funding for trainees, informatics. But this is how you would do that. And I think there's also a way that you can unsubscribe yourself after you've seen how it works. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. It looks completely different on my end, but I can follow up with you separately.
It
I can't
might look
navigate to.
different because of, I mean, I think in PDO ours looks different than other people's, maybe. That may be it. But this at least shows you what the lists are, and hopefully you can sign up that way. Also, if it gets too difficult, you can always just email pdo@uky.edu and ask them to put you on a mailing list, and I think they can still do it that way. We want to make it easier for you, not, create more complication.
Other questions or comments or requests from PDO?
Yeah, Sally, I didn't want to
Hey
say that.
guys. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ashrab. You're good.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks for the all the resources. So quick question. I think it was implied, but I just wanted to double check. So you said the resources are available to grad students and faculties. How about research staff?
Yes, absolutely, everybody, staff,
Okay.
and postdocs, and students and faculty and everyone.
Okay.
In
Cool.
fact, not too long ago, I gave a one of the high five grants trainings, and it was on things that research staff specifically who are not faculty might know and consider when they are thinking about grant funding or being supportive of faculty that are submitting grants, and that might interest you. And we keep all of our trainings in that series and most of our series on our SharePoint site, our public SharePoint site, if you're interested in that. But that's just to reiterate that we do definitely work with research staff as well.
Okay. And for that like type of like individual like specific search and stuff, do we need to like make an appointment with you guys and sit down and talk? Maybe is that the first step?
Yes, that can be a first step. We love to sit down and talk to people. If you would prefer to, just send us the keywords and have us do it on our own, we can also do that as well. But it often just works well to have a really quick call to know what you're asking and what you'd like. Really, any way that works best for you. Over email, over calling, through our intake form, not through our intake form, we can handle it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Nat, what were you going to say? I'm giving Nat the opportunity to finally unmute and say what he's been trying to say.
Yeah, no, just back to your point, Dr. Sadi, about the Cure PDO table. If you go to our site and then click to the full site, you can see over 120 funding opportunities listed there. And those have been tailored based on keywords like virology, immunology, etc. And we've actually done a pretty good job of limiting the search so that it is showing things that are actually relevant to our group, both geographically too. So we don't see just a ton of opportunities from overseas that really won't apply to you. So, like Lou and Will said, if you make your own, you can kind of tailor it to your own. But this is a pretty good start if you don't want to go all the way through that. But thank you.
Great. Well, Lou and Will, thank you both so much for coming on board. I really hope that that you get bombarded with lots and lots of requests for help from our community. And we thank you again for everything that you do to support research across the campus. And thank you everyone for attending our inaugural meeting, and see you at Nat, what's our next month's seminar series?
Next, we have the flow cytometry and immune
Woo!
monitoring core on
Oh, wow,
September
so
16th.
exciting. All right, tantalizing. Can't wait. Hope to see you all next month again. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Bye bye.